Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something that I think everyone listening has probably felt in their bones,
Well, absolutely.
probably as recently as, this morning.
Mhm.
We are talking about the massive and frankly sometimes painful gap between the promise of AI in the workplace and the messy reality of actually using it.
Right. It's the classic, the vendor keynote versus the Monday morning reality.
Yes, that is exactly it. The vendor keynote versus Monday morning, because you know the narrative I'm talking about.
We all do.
It's the year 2026. We've been living with these advanced tools for a few years now, and the sales pitch is always exactly the same.
Hand over your boring tasks.
You're right. Hand your boring, repetitive tasks to the AI, and suddenly you are free.
Liberated.
Liberated to do creative, high-value strategic work. It's this dream where you tap a button, the report basically writes itself, and you go home early to play catch with your kids.
It is incredibly seductive, isn't it?
Oh,
I mean, the idea that we can just shed the drudgery.
who wouldn't want that?
Exactly.
Mm.
But what we are seeing in the data now, after the initial hype cycle is really settled, is that for a lot of people, that dream is actually creating a whole new kind of nightmare.
Yeah. Here is the reality for most of you listening. You delegate a complex task to the bot. Let's say you need a strategy memo for a product launch.
Sure.
You prompt it, it comes back looking incredibly confident.
Always so
The
confident.
formatting is perfect, the bullet points are crisp. But then you start reading and you realize it's just wrong.
Just completely misses the mark.
Right, it missed the nuance of the client meeting last week, or the tone is weirdly robotic, or maybe it just hallucinated a competitor's stock price out of thin air.
Which happens all the time.
And suddenly you are spending 3 hours fixing a draft that would have taken you, 45 minutes to write yourself?
And you find yourself sitting there just staring at the cursor, wondering why you didn't just do it yourself in the first place.
Yes. So that is what we are unpacking today in this deep dive. We are moving past the hype of using AI, and we're talking about managing AI.
And we have some incredible source material to guide us today.
We really do. We're diving into a comprehensive piece of work titled The Art of Intelligent AI Delegation.
A practitioner's guide to getting more from human-AI collaboration.
Exactly. And the reason we are so excited about this specific source is because it's not just some thought leader's opinion on a blog.
No, this is rigorous. It draws on ethnographic studies, large-scale workforce surveys from groups like Gallup and Workday.
Real massive data sets.
Massive. And experimental designs conducted all throughout 2025 and 2026. It is looking at what is actually happening in offices, in hospitals, and factories right now.
And our mission for this deep dive is to understand why the productivity numbers are so paradoxical,
Because they really are.
why adoption is so high, but real-world gains are just surprisingly low. We also want to look at the psychological cost.
And because delegating to a machine really does mess with our heads.
It does. And finally, we want to give you, the listener, the intelligent delegation framework. How do you actually reclaim your time instead of just generating more busy work for yourself?
It really is about shifting from a technology mindset to a management mindset.
I love that, a management mindset.
Because right now, most people are just using the tools. They aren't managing them. And that distinction, that lack of management, is costing businesses billions and costing employees their sanity.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with what the source material calls the productivity paradox.
The what of the situation.
Right, because if you look at the headlines or read the quarterly reports from the big tech firms, everything seems absolutely fantastic.
On the surface, yes. The source highlights a recent survey of employees at large companies.
The Workday one, right?
Yes. They asked these employees, how much time are you saving with AI? And 85% of them said they are saving between 1 and 7 hours a week.
Which is massive. Let's just pause on that for a second. 7 hours a week, that is basically a full workday.
It's huge.
If you told me I could get every Friday off because of a piece of software, I'd say the utopian revolution is finally here.
It sounds perfect. But here is where it gets fascinating and honestly a little depressing.
Bring us back to Earth.
The same survey drops the other shoe. It shows that 37% of that allegedly saved time is lost almost immediately to what they call rework.
Rework, that's the key word here. It sounds like a factory term, like fixing a broken car part on the assembly line.
In this context, it basically is. Rework is fixing AI errors.
Yeah.
It's reprompting because the first answer was absolute garbage.
Or fact-checking hallucinations.
Exactly. or editing the tone because the email sounded like it was written by a Victorian butler.
I've definitely sent a few Victorian butler emails by accident.
We all have. And the point is, you aren't actually saving that time. You're just shifting how you spend it.
You stop being a creator and start being an editor.
And often, a very confused editor. The survey actually found that only 14% of respondents are seeing consistent net positive outcomes.
That is a staggering gap. 85% say they save time, but only 14% are actually seeing a real net positive.
It's the definition of a paradox.
It sounds like productivity theater. We feel busy, we feel high-tech, our screen is filling up with text rapidly, but are we actually getting more done?
That is exactly the question raised by another amazing study in our source material. This was an analysis of administrative labor records in Denmark.
Now, for you listening, Danish registry data is basically the gold standard for economists, right?
It is, because it tracks everything at a population level. It's not just a survey where people might lie about how hard they work.
Or how much time they're really saving.
Right. It's objective data, no self-reporting bias. And what they found was that even for daily AI users who subjectively felt more productive.
Like they felt faster.
Right. They felt like superheroes.
Yeah.
But there were no measurable gains in earnings or reduction in working hours at the population level.
Wait, so people felt faster, but they weren't making more money and they weren't going home any earlier.
Precisely. It suggests a massive disconnect between our subjective feeling of speed, like, wow, the bot wrote that email in 3 seconds, and the objective economic output. The AI is doing something, clearly. It's generating tokens. But it isn't translating into the kind of economic outcomes we would expect from a true productivity revolution.
We are confusing activity with achievement.
Perfectly said.
And this connects to something that really stood out to me in the research. It's a concept called work intensification.
Yes, the ethnographic study.
Right. Researchers followed people around a tech company for 8 months, and what they found is frankly terrifying for anyone who cares about work-life balance.
It's a critical insight. They found that when people genuinely save time with AI, let's say the bot actually did a good job and saved them an hour on a report.
A rare win.
A rare win. But they didn't use that hour to think or to plan strategy or to log off and go for a walk.
What did they do?
They expanded their scope.
Scope creep.
Scope creep on steroids. They took on new tasks, they blurred the boundaries of their roles, they filled the natural breaks and transition periods of their day with more activity. The analysis here is that AI doesn't reduce work. It intensifies it. It acts like a gas that expands to fill whatever available space there is.
That is such a vivid image. It acts like a gas. So if I save 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there, I don't suddenly get a 20-minute break to grab a coffee.
No.
I just cram 3 more emails into those slots.
Exactly. Think about the rhythm of work 10 years ago. You'd write a report, and maybe you'd hit a wall, so you'd stare out the window for 5 minutes.
Or go chat by the water cooler.
Right. Or you'd do some formatting, which is low-intensity work. It gives your brain a rest. But now, the AI does the formatting. The AI writes the first draft.
So you are left with only the high-intensity decision-making tasks.
Yes. So the cognitive load never drops. You are just redlining your brain for 8 hours straight.
Just constant high-level judgment and editing without any of the low-level breaks.
Correct. Without deliberate intervention, AI generates activity, not value. It creates a treadmill that speeds up every single time you get faster.
That is exhausting just to think about. So what does this all mean for the human beings sitting at the desk? We've talked about the numbers, but let's shift to the who and the why.
The human element.
Yes, because the source material goes really deep into the psychology of this. It's not just about efficiency, it's about who we are when we work.
This is where we get into a concept they call occupational identity crafting.
I love that term, occupational identity crafting. It sounds very academic, but it feels deeply personal. What does it actually mean in practice?
Well, think about it. For a lot of knowledge workers, their identity is tied to the act of creation.
Right. I am a writer. I am a coder. I am an analyst.
Exactly. The verb defines the noun. But when the machine starts doing the writing, the coding, and the analyzing, what happens to who you are?
You have an identity crisis. If I'm not writing the sentences, am I still a writer?
That's exactly what the research found. Workers paired with AI often experience severe occupational identity challenges. They are moving from the role of creator to the role of supervisor.
I can see how that would be really hard. If I pride myself on my beautiful prose, on finding just the right word, and now my job is literally just fixing the grammar of a robot.
It feels like a demotion.
It really does. Even if the company says it's more efficient, on a personal level, it feels like a loss of self.
And that is where the crafting comes in. Workers actively try to redefine their roles to maintain their self-worth.
That's so.
They might tell themselves, I'm not just a writer anymore, I'm an orchestrator of intelligence. Or, I'm the strategic vision behind the content.
That sounds like a healthy coping mechanism, though, rebranding yourself to fit the new reality.
It can be. It's absolutely a survival mechanism. But the risk, as the source points out, is role ambiguity.
Meaning they aren't sure what their actual job is anymore.
Right? Without explicit support from leadership, people just feel lost. They feel like they're becoming supervisors of machines, and that can lead to massive disengagement.
Because if you feel like a glorified spell checker, you're going to check out mentally.
Exactly. And it gets darker, actually.
Oh, great. Let's go there. There's a section in the deep dive material on the ethical slippery slope, right?
Yes. This isn't just about feeling sad about your job. It's about actual bad behavior creeping into the workplace.
Tell me more about that.
This is one of the most concerning findings from the 2026 studies. They found that using AI can promote moral relativism.
Moral relativism. That sounds incredibly heavy for a workplace productivity study.
It does, but it basically means loosening your ethical boundaries. When a machine generates the content, humans are significantly more likely to cut corners or accept questionable outputs.
Why is that?
Because it diffuses responsibility.
I see. It's the AI did it defense.
Exactly. Think about the psychology of authorship. If you write a report yourself, you feel a deep sense of ownership over every single fact in that document.
Because I hunted them down, I verified them, they're my facts.
Right. But if the AI writes it and you just skim it and there is a lie or a hallucination in there.
Well, I didn't tell the lie, the machine did.
Exactly. It separates the actor from the action. It erodes the ethical muscle that we build through practice and accountability.
That is scary. It's like we are outsourcing our conscience along with the task.
And it creates absolute chaos in team dynamics, too. The research discusses something called attribution ambiguity.
Attribution ambiguity. What's an example of that?
Let's say a team member brings a truly brilliant idea to the morning meeting. Did they come up with it? Or did their chatbot?
Oh, wow. Who gets the credit? The prompter or the bot?
Exactly. And this severely erodes trust and psychological safety on teams.
I can easily imagine sitting in a meeting thinking, is John at Corley this smart, or is he just a better prompt engineer than me?
Is he actually doing the work?
Right. And that suspicion is toxic for a team. If you can't tell who is contributing genuine value, collaboration just breaks down.
It becomes a game of who has the best bot, rather than who has the best mind.
So, with all these problems, the rework, the identity crisis, the ethical drift, the team suspicion, why are people actually using it so much? Is it just because they want to, or is something else driving this massive adoption rate?
Not always, and this brings us to a fascinating difference between fear and utility.
Fear and utility.
Right. A study involving manufacturing employees found that high AI usage is very often driven by monitoring and social pressure.
Ah, the boss is watching effect. The corporate panopticon.
Precisely.
Yeah.
If the company tracks AI adoption as a key performance indicator, which a lot of companies do now to justify their software licenses.
Employees will definitely use the AI.
Yes, but they're using it to comply, not to produce quality.
So they're just gamifying the metric.
Exactly. And the implication is huge. If you use AI because you are afraid of falling behind on a dashboard, you get compliance. You do not get creativity.
And you definitely get the rework problem we talked about earlier.
Because people are just generating output to hit a metric.
Look, boss, I generated 50,000 words today.
Even if all 50,000 words are garbage.
Right. There's another demographic layer here that I found really surprising in the source material, the gender gap in adoption.
Yes. This is a truly fascinating finding. They found that women are generally more skeptical of AI than men.
But, and this is the crucial part for everyone listening, it is not due to a lack of technical skill.
Not at all. It is not a capability issue. It's not that they don't know how to prompt the model.
So what's driving it?
It is driven by higher risk aversion regarding job displacement. Statistics show that women are historically more likely to hold the types of administrative, coordinative, and analytical roles that AI explicitly threatens to automate first.
So the skepticism is completely rational.
It's a survival instinct.
Why would I enthusiastically train the robot that is literally coming for my paycheck?
Exactly. But the twist in the data was what really proved this point. The gender gap in adoption disappears entirely when job gains or job security are explicitly guaranteed.
So, if you tell a female employee, This tool will not take your job. It will only make your job better, and your role is completely safe.
The hesitation vanishes overnight.
That is so telling. It proves that trust in AI isn't about better technical training.
It's not about teaching people how a large language model works.
No, it's about the psychological contract of employment.
If you want adoption, you have to guarantee security. Otherwise, you're just asking people to dig their own graves faster.
That is a perfect transition. We've covered the what? The productivity paradox, we've covered the who, the identity crisis, and the fear. Now let's get into the how.
The solutions.
Right. The source material calls this segment Defining Intelligent Delegation.
And this is where we have to reframe our entire concept of delegation. We basically need to unlearn what we know about delegating to other human beings.
Because usually when I delegate something to a human, I'm giving them the authority to do it. I trust them to handle the whole thing.
Right. You give a human authority and accountability. If I delegate a big project to you, you own the result.
I want the credit if it goes well, and I have to take the blame if it fails.
Exactly. But AI delegation is fundamentally different. The source defines it as directed outsourcing with retained accountability.
Directed outsourcing with retained accountability. That's a bit of a mouthful. Let's break that down for the listeners.
It means you hand off the execution, the typing, the coding, the summarizing.
Oh,
But you keep the judgment.
I keep the judgment.
You keep the quality assurance.
Yeah.
And most importantly, you keep the ethical responsibility. You can never, ever blame the bot.
Because the bot is a tool, not a colleague.
Exactly. You wouldn't blame your keyboard for a typo. You can't blame the AI for a hallucination.
So, practically speaking, how do we decide what to give the bot? Because I think that's where most people fail on Monday mornings.
It is.
They either try to give it everything and it fails spectacularly, or they give it nothing out of frustration. They treat it like a magic 8-ball.
The source proposes a really elegant framework for this called the task audit. It uses a matrix based on two factors: capability versus oversight cost.
Okay, let's visualize this matrix for everyone listening.
Imagine a graph with two axes. On the vertical axis, you have AI capability. How good is the model at this specific task?
High capability at the top, low capability at the bottom.
Right. On the horizontal axis, you have oversight cost. How long does it actually take me, the human, to check the machine's work?
Got it. High cost to check, low cost to check.
So if a task is high capability, meaning the AI is great at it, and low oversight cost, meaning it's super easy to check.
You delegate that immediately.
Yeah.
Give me an example of that, like summarizing a transcript or formatting a list of names.
Perfect examples. The AI is incredibly good at summarization. And you, the human, can quickly scan the bullet points to see if it missed the main themes. It takes seconds to verify.
High capability, low oversight cost. Boom. Done.
But consider the opposite corner of the matrix: low capability and high oversight cost.
Okay. Like what would that be? Writing a highly nuanced legal argument for a specific, obscure regional court.
Yes. Or writing a highly sensitive, emotionally intelligent email to a very angry top-tier client.
Oh, that's a disaster waiting to happen.
Right. The AI has low capability there. It might hallucinate legal cases. It might get the empathetic tone completely wrong and sound condescending.
And the oversight cost is huge.
Massive. To check it, you have to go look up every single legal citation it made. You have to read every sentence 3 times to check the emotional nuance.
That literally takes longer than just writing the brief or the email yourself.
Exactly. So the biggest mistake people make is delegating tasks where checking the work takes longer than doing the work.
That is the very definition of unintelligent delegation. You are spending $1 to save 10 cents.
Precisely. Keep those tasks human.
The source also mentions prompt engineering, but not in the way, YouTube influencers talk about it.
Thank goodness.
Right. They don't talk about secret magic cheat codes to unlock the AI. They talk about it as an organizational asset.
Yes. This is a crucial shift. It's distinct from the individual magic trick approach. They look at Deloitte, for example. Deloitte uses what they call prompt libraries.
Prompt libraries.
The core idea is that a highly effective prompt is a piece of intellectual property. If you, as an employee, figure out the perfect 50-word prompt to get the AI to accurately analyze a complex balance sheet.
Or to write a really specific bug-free type of code.
Right. You shouldn't just keep that brilliant prompt on a sticky note on your monitor.
Or hidden in your personal notepad app.
It should be formalized and put into a shared organizational library.
That makes so much sense. It standardizes the output across the company.
And it directly reduces that rework time we spent so long talking about earlier. If the prompt is pre-tested and verified by experts, the output is much more likely to be right the first time.
And it treats the prompt as a company asset. It democratizes the skill. You don't need to be a prompt wizard to get good results on your first day.
You just need to know where the library is and how to search it. It turns magic into a repeatable process.
Now, what about the work intensification trap? We said earlier that AI fills the time it saves like an expanding gas.
The treadmill effect.
Right. How do we stop that? How do I actually get my Friday afternoon back instead of just doing more work?
The expert strategy here is incredibly simple, but it is so rarely done in practice. You have to explicitly plan what to do with the save time before you delegate the task to the AI.
Before. Not, hey, let's just see how much time I save and then figure it out.
Before. Always before. You have to say to yourself, I'm going to use AI to draft this quarterly report, which historically takes me 2 hours. The AI will help me do it in 1 hour.
Okay, so I have an extra hour.
Right. And you declare, I will use that specific saved hour to do deep strategic planning for Q4. Or I will use that hour to take a required training course. Or even I will use that hour to go for a walk.
But you have to name it.
If you don't make that plan, scope creep will steal the hour. Your inbox will instantly steal the hour. You have to defend the newly created time.
That is profound. It's all about intentionality. You can't just hope for free time to magically appear. You have to budget for it, like currency.
Time reclamation is an active skill. It is not a passive result of buying software. You have to actively fight for the white space in your calendar.
Okay, let's move into segment 4. We've got the theory. We understand the matrix. Now I want to see this in action.
Let's look at the real world.
Because the source material has some incredible case studies of organizations that are actually solving these exact problems today. Let's start with that terrible 37% rework stat. How are companies fixing that?
JP Morgan Chase provides a really great example here. They are using what is broadly called human-in-the-loop quality control, but they do it in a highly structured way.
So it's not just a casual, yeah, that looks fine review.
No, absolutely not. They have mandatory, structured human review checkpoints before any AI output can be seen by a client or a regulator.
High stakes.
Very high stakes.
Yeah.
But more interestingly, they use specific tactics like red teaming the AI outputs.
Red teaming, like they do in cybersecurity.
Exactly like that. They assign specific employees to actively try to break the AI output, to find the subtle flaws, to play the role of the adversary.
That's fascinating. You're paid to doubt the machine.
Yes. They also focus heavily on something called confidence calibration training.
Confidence calibration, what exactly is that?
It is systematically teaching humans when to doubt the bot. As humans, we have a psychological tendency to do one of two things. We either trust the machine completely,
Which is automation bias.
right, or we hate it completely and refuse to use it. Calibration means teaching an employee, okay, for this specific type of financial query, the bot is generally 80% accurate.
So you know there's a 20% margin of error.
Exactly. So the training tells them, because of that error rate, you need to manually check these 3 specific variables every single time. It's a learned, repeatable skill.
That connects right back to the judgment piece we were talking about. It's
Yeah.
training the human to be a better, more targeted skeptic.
Correct. You're teaching them to be an expert editor rather than a gullible reader.
Now, what about the identity crisis we discussed? The creators becoming supervisors. The Cleveland Clinic case study in the source material was really interesting to me on this front.
It's a brilliant approach.
Because medicine is such a high-status profession, I imagine doctors do not like being told what to do by a piece of software.
This is one of my favorite case studies because it addresses the emotional and ego side of work. Cleveland Clinic actively involves their clinicians in the design process of the AI integration.
So it's not just forced on them by IT?
Exactly. But the framing they use is the real key. They frame the doctor as the judge of the AI's suggestions, not the recipient of orders.
Oh, that's a very subtle but powerful shift in language.
It completely preserves their professional status.
Mm-hmm.
The AI is framed as the medical clerk. The doctor is the judge.
I see.
The AI presents the evidence, but the doctor makes the final ruling. This preserves their autonomy and their identity as the ultimate healer.
And the source also mentioned they do role narrative workshops.
Yes, I love this concept.
Me too. Sitting down and actually writing the story of your job.
Teams physically sit down together and ask, how is our story changing? It helps them make sense of the technological shift together as a community, rather than suffering the identity crisis in silence at their desks.
It turns a scary change into a narrative that they have control over.
It's almost like group therapy for the workforce. It deliberately helps them transition from being the doer to being the evaluator.
Moving on to the ethics problem, we talked about moral relativism. The source brings up Salesforce here.
Yes, they're trusted AI principles.
Right. Which, to be honest, sounds like standard corporate jargon at first, but the actual tactics they use are quite specific.
They are very specific. They have explicit ethical guardrails. These are plain language rules on what the AI is absolutely not allowed to touch.
Hard boundaries.
Right. For example, personnel evaluations or providing specific legal advice to a client. It's a hard, non-negotiable no-go zone.
That clarity must be a huge relief for employees, honestly. You don't have to guess if you're crossing a line. You don't have to sit there and weigh the ethical options.
And to reinforce it, they use what they call ethics reflection prompts.
How do those work?
Before you hit send or finalize an AI-assisted task, a pop-up might appear with a prompt forcing you to reflect. It asks things like, have you independently verified this data?
Or, would you comfortably put your own name on this work?
Exactly. It forces a micropause. It breaks that dangerous autopilot mode where moral relativism tends to creep in.
It re-engages the human brain right at the point of action. It literally forces you to take personal ownership.
Exactly.
Finally, let's talk about training and learning. We discussed Unilever, and earlier we established that just giving people tech training on how to use software isn't enough.
Unilever understood this perfectly. They focus on what they term contextualized literacy.
Contextualized literacy.
They recognize that a supply chain analyst needs completely different AI training than a brand marketing manager.
Right, because one size does not fit all.
And they lean heavily on research regarding the usefulness first principle.
Usefulness first, meaning show me why I care.
Exactly. Don't waste time explaining how the underlying large language model works. Don't bring in engineers to explain neural networks or transformer architecture.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Explain exactly how this specific tool helps me, the individual employee, do my specific job better today.
It's like the old saying, don't tell me how the watch is built, just tell me the time.
Or rather, don't tell me how the watch is built. Tell me how wearing this watch makes me less late for my meetings.
That's a great way to put it. When people see the direct personal utility first, the trust naturally follows.
But if you start with the complex math, you lose them immediately to fear and boredom.
So we've seen the traps, we've seen the corporate strategies to fix them. Now, let's zoom out for segment 5, the future of work.
The big picture.
Right. So what of all this data? Where is this all actually going?
If we look at the trajectory outlined in the research, we are seeing a fundamental shift in the very nature of the knowledge economy. We are moving from an economy of access to an economy of judgment.
Economy of access to an economy of judgment. What exactly does that mean?
Well, think about the last 20 years. Value in the workplace often came from access to information or access to complex tools.
Like I know how to navigate the complex legacy software.
Exactly. Or I have access to the proprietary database. Or I know how to code in Python. That specialized access was the barrier to entry. That was your inherent value to the company.
So if everyone can now do those things because the AI lowers that barrier to zero.
Exactly. Now, everyone has the tool. Everyone has the sum of human knowledge. Everyone can generate functional code in seconds. The barrier to doing is effectively gone. The marginal cost of creation is zero.
So the value shifts away from creation.
The value shifts to choosing what to do in the first place, evaluating what was just done by the machine, curating, editing. We are rapidly moving toward a model of distributed judgment.
Distributed judgment.
It means quality control can't just be the boss reviewing the work at the end of the week. If every entry-level employee is using AI to generate massive amounts of content, every single entry-level employee must become a highly competent editor and critic.
That puts a massive amount of pressure on junior employees.
They have to have the taste and the domain knowledge to instantly say, this output is garbage, or this output is brilliant.
And it requires a total rewrite of the psychological contract between employer and employee.
Returning to the skepticism data we discussed.
Right. Companies must rewrite that unwritten contract. If AI is used purely to cut headcount.
To efficiency them right out of a job.
Exactly. If that's the goal, resistance will remain incredibly high and delegation will be poor.
You will get malicious compliance.
Here is your AI-generated report, boss. It's full of errors, but I did exactly what you asked me to do in record time.
Exactly. For intelligent delegation to actually work, you need credible, documented commitments to upskilling and job security from leadership.
The message has to be, we are using this tool to make you more powerful, not to make you redundant.
If you break that trust, the tool becomes a weapon. and nobody collaborates effectively with a weapon pointed at them.
That is incredibly well said. Okay, let's wrap this deep dive up. We've covered a ton of ground today. What are the key takeaways for the listener who is maybe driving to work right now, about to sit down at their desk?
I'd say there are three main things. First, AI adoption is easy, but intelligent delegation is a hard skill.
Just because you have the shiny new tool doesn't mean you are using it well.
Right. Treat delegation to an AI as a distinct professional discipline.
And the second takeaway?
Second, watch out for the rework trap and work intensification. If you aren't careful, AI will just make you substantially busier and much more frustrated.
You have to explicitly defend your saved time.
Exactly. And third, always remember that you are still the architect of the work. The AI is merely the contractor. Do not abdicate your human judgment.
I love that framing. The AI is the contractor. You would never let a contractor build a house without carefully checking the blueprints and inspecting the foundation.
Never. You'd end up with a house with no doors and a leaky roof.
So true. I want to end today with a final, slightly provocative thought. Something you mentioned in our prep for this deep dive really stuck with me. It's about those junior employees we were just talking about.
Yes. This is honestly the thing that keeps me up at night regarding all this research. It's what I call the apprenticeship gap.
Explain that for the listeners, because if AI takes over all the doing of tasks, the drafting, the coding, the basic data analysis,
And we humans are left entirely with the judging and the curating. What happens to the junior employees just entering the workforce?
because judgment comes from experience.
Exactly. Judgment comes from years of doing the grunt work.
Right. You only know a legal brief is bad because you personally wrote 50 bad ones yourself and got yelled at by a partner.
Yes. You know the code is buggy because you spend agonizing nights debugging it line by line. You develop taste and intuition through struggle,
Through the drudgery.
through the drudgery. If we automate all the drudgery out of the early career, how do we develop judgment in the next generation of workers?
Are we basically burning the bridge behind us that leads to true expertise?
Are we creating a generation of managers who don't actually know how the work is fundamentally done?
That is a massive existential question. Can you be a good editor if you were never forced to be a struggling writer?
I think we are about to find out over the next 5 years.
Well, on that slightly terrifying note, we will leave it there for today. This has been a deep dive into the art of intelligent AI delegation. We hope you look at that AI sidebar on your screen a little differently tomorrow morning. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you.